Now on my left here is the Crane S. It's been my gimbal of choice for the last couple of years, kept me going, sexy, sturdy, and capable. On the right, we've got the ZHIYUN Crane S. It's about the same size, but with a whole lot of punch. Alright, so first off, I'm going to give you a couple of differences, the upgrades, the differences between the two different versions, and then I'm going to take it outside, see how capable it is, the actual real world test, where we see if this new gimbal is actually more stable than the other one. Now, first off, in terms of size, to be honest, pretty much the same, very much similar in size, in height, as well as thickness. Material wise, so we're using a mixture of, we've got alloys I think, and then we've got a little bit of plastic here, but on the bottom hand grip, that's where the difference are. We've got carbon fiber for the first time on any gimbal that I've actually tested. Not only is it sexy, lightweight and sturdy, but during summer it's not going to get as hot, so you won't have sweaty hands, and during winter it's not as cold. Unlike the previous versions, we've got the alloy, so that's a bonus right there. Now if we move up, we can see now the knobs are a little bit different. In terms of size, you can see, well, sometimes smaller is better. You actually have a better grip with this one, better material, it's alloy, whereas the previous one is kind of rubbery material with plastic on the inside, and it's quite flimsy, see? And the best of all with the new one is, now we actually have friction, so it gives you more precise control with your follow focus, a little bit of friction, a little bit of grip, so it just makes that little experience a little bit better, whereas the old one is just, a little knob. If we go further up, now let's have a look. The screen, very much similar. This one is a little bit bigger than the old one. Manual system is still the same. Now we're looking at very similar ZHIYUN menu, so if you're familiar with ZHIYUN products, so no problems there. Through the menu system, now we've got both English and Chinese, depending on where this is launched. I'm sure overseas versions will have multiple versions where you have different languages. In terms of modes, you can make all your customization from auto gimbal adjustments to stability, as well as setting all the access, its deadbands, its settings and things like that. In terms of modes, pretty much all the gimbals on the market are very similar these days. You've got your normal pan, lock, follow, as well as the POV, go mode, selfie mode. But apart from that, very much similar, just a slightly bigger screen. The knobs are very much the same, a bit more depth I would say, but very similar in terms of feel. This one has more precision, a little bit of friction while you're stirring it, whereas the old one is just more flimsy, I would say. Buttons are very similar, and everything is controlled by the dial right here, so that's the same. Okay, if you turn it around, we've got a couple of screw holes right now on both sides, so you can extend it or you can add extra accessories like your monitor, battery, etc. like that, or extra handle, something that's not available on the previous model. And then also if you look at the back, we've got now a quick button, very similar to a lot of previous ZHIYUN gimbals like the Weeble S and the Crane 3, where the old version did not have. Obviously you can double click on this and adjust this button so you can access quick modes like lock or pan, follow, etc. For the first time we had the 3-axis lock, not available on the previous version, so now we have all the access lock, which is quite welcome. On the arms here itself, there are 8 Allen key bolts. You can actually take this off and shorten the whole arm. So instead of having a vertical arm, you can have it slanted a little bit. This is something of your preference. If your setup actually requires you to move your arm in case it doesn't get in the way, that's something you can do. But it's still good to know that there is an option like this on a gimbal of this size, whereas the previous one did not have that. For the first time, the quick release plate and the actual bracket itself, it's different from any other gimbals I've used. This is actually an L bracket. What I mean by that is, let me show you. So you've got your base plate, which is very similar to the old version. All you have to do is, slide it in, lock it, and you're good to go, right? Now, if I want to change this into a vertical shot, what do you have to do? Usually you have to do an L bracket, right? But in this version, all you have to do, let me show you. You can take off your quick release plate and then just put it on the side. Check this out. And then lock it in. Bang. You've got a vertical gimbal, right? Very simple. You just basically slide and lock. Alright, so if you're a TikToker, Instagram story, this is something that's super convenient for you. Just upgrades your whole game. Super effective. Okay, now here's another thing that this can do. Alright, I'm gonna lock this in. Right now, what if you're a run and gun, you have a tripod, you have a gimbal, you know, a lot of time we've got to take off the plate and then rebalance it. Not on this one. So check this out. You can take this off, just like this, and the actual base plate comes off. And what's good about it, underneath there's 1/4" screws, so you can actually just screw it onto your tripod or your tripod base, and then you're good to go. All right, once you're done with your shoot, take it off, and voila, all balance. So your balance is not interrupted, everything is good to go. Super easy. I think that is one of the best designs of this gimbal, right? One of the draw cards. Speaking of which, they've also upgraded the motors. Unfortunately, on the website, it does not show how much weight it can withstand. But here's a little test I did for you. I checked on a couple of cameras. Unfortunately, I don't have a Red or anything, you know, FS9 and things like that. But I did check on a camera, a Canon, a Sony, a G7X. It's around 3 kilos. Mostly of these gimbals can handle 3 kilos, no problems. You can see with my setup, just to play around, by the way, this is just for fun only, so do not try this at home. Works perfectly fine. There's no vibration in the motors and everything like that, so pretty good. I think 3 kilos is a good safe weight. I also put on an A7 with my GM lens, which is roughly around just under 2 kilos. And it worked pretty fine, so no problems there. But speaking of motors, let me show you and test this out for you. So to test out the motors, very simple. Let's test out the X, the Y, and the Z. Now, 3 different motors. In terms of rotation, right, this motor here, not a problem. 360, infinite spins, so no problems there, right? So you've got, you know, all your nice little pan right there. Let's check it out from the side. From the side view, fairly good. You know, it's about here. This is all you can go. So about, you know, let's look it around. So right there, right? So that's roughly, you know, 250 to 60 degrees of rotation. That's all you can do. No vibrations. Super easy. Right now, let's test the third one, which is the back motor. This is the hardest one to do for most gimbals because to test this, we're going to go upside down. So it puts a lot of strain on this motor as well as the calculation within. So to have a smooth transition is really a testament of this motor here. So I'm going to move it slowly. Let's see what happens. Here we go. That's pretty smooth. That is pretty smooth. Let's go back up again. Smooth? Very smooth actually. Well, let's go again. Pretty smooth. Oh, hit the table and it's still fine. Pretty smooth. I think overall this is actually pretty good. I'm surprised to see. Right? Can you see that? Let's go a little bit faster and see how this goes. That's not bad. Okay. It's not too bad. Okay, so rarely would you actually do a move like that, but as you go a little bit faster, it puts a little bit of strain on the motors. You can feel a tiny bit of vibration, but overall, I think this is actually very capable motors. I'm using the GM 2470 lens. Roughly, it's around 1.8 kilos altogether. So let's run this. Now I'm going to run 4 different tests. So with the 24, with the Steadicam on, Steadicam off, as well as the 70 Steadicam on and Steadicam off. Now all of which I'm going to do both walking and running just so you can see the vibrations. Now usually you wouldn't use a 70 to do a gimbal run, but I just want to show you the little imperfections by having a zoom lens. The further you zoom in, the more visible it is, the vibration, okay? So let's do this. Test 1, 24mm with a steady test number 3, 70mm, steady shot off, walking and running. And test number 4, this is the 70mm, steady shot on, walking and running. Okay, you saw the results. Let me know what you think in the comments below. To me, I was fairly surprised. I did not do any post-stabilization on any of the footage, so what you saw is actually raw footage. I was actually fairly surprised given that it's factory settings. I have not done any changes at all. So overall, I am really impressed. I've tested quite a few gimbals previously, but this one at 24mm with the steady shot off and on, especially the one with on, I think was fairly smooth. I mean, very usable, right? Yeah, overall, I'm really happy with this gimbal. I think this will be my next go-to gimbal right now. So overall, my recommendation was if you have a gimbal or if you have a camera setup that's fairly similar to mine or even a little bit heavier, especially with the cage or monitor, I think this is more than capable of actually running something like that. The Weebill S might be a little bit on the lighter side if you run a cage, so I think this will be the one to go for, whereas the Crane 3 is quite bulky, quite sized. The weight itself is very heavy, so I think this is where it comes in. It kind of fills that gap between the Crane S and the Weebill S. Being a gimbal of this caliber, I think it's a long-term gimbal that you can invest in, and it's for, you know, further up down the track where you want to upgrade cameras or upgrade lenses, you're certain to know that, hey, this is more than capable of handling the weight. All right, well, hope you like this episode. There's actually a couple more gimbals that I'm actually showcasing in the coming future. It's not released right now, but especially if you like gimbals reviews or if you like camera reviews in particular, or creative photo shoots, hey, feel free to consider subscribing. Thank you for watching to the end. If you do me a favor, hit that like button. That'd be much appreciated. Thank you. I'm George, and I'll keep you posted. Peace.